everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to talk about the Marvel event Original Sin. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about Original Sin, the Marvel event from about 10 years ago or so. I wish they put the years that this came out. Anyway, this is the trade paperback. It collects Original Sin 0 through 8. Yes, that is 9 issues long, and it did not need 9 issues. It also has some stuff from the .1 issue, which was like this special thing Marvel did every once in a while. I think maybe it was Free Comic Book Day, but it was like, here's a lead-in story and just like a taste or a tease of all these new number ones that are going to come out that year. They've since stopped doing them. I don't think they do them very much anymore, but that's regardless. That .1 stuff doesn't even feel like it's related to the story told in here. In fact, the story told in here for Original Sin number 0, which is written by Jason Aaron, is illustrated by Jimmy Chung, and it's got phenomenal Jim Chung art, but even that doesn't feel like it is related to what the story is here. It kind of gives you a brief on who the Watcher is and things like that. I mean, the artwork's phenomenal. But it doesn't serve up or set up any of the stuff that happens. Like, you could really come in with issue 1 here with Original Sin when Mike Deodato takes over doing the art. And he does a phenomenal job, by the way, for the next 8 issues or so. And it kind of goes nowhere after that. It was really weird. So this takes place, you can tell with the black and gold Iron Man, this takes place in the Kieran Gillen Iron Man era, or the Hickman Avengers run is going on at the same time. So this is kind of a weird event in that it doesn't really do anything. It feels like there's no purpose. The Watcher is killed. Who shot the Watcher? You got a bunch of people in different costumes. You got Wolverine down here in his 12 Days to Die kind of costume before the death of Wolverine happens. You got Thor in his costume, Iron Man in his black and gold suit, and you have these villains that come back from Marvel Boy, interestingly enough, and they're all going after the Watcher's like body parts, his eyes, and it's never really explained why they're doing this, just that they are. And I don't really remember any like follow up to this miniseries, this event, afterwards to really explain, much less they tried to make the Orb like a larger villain than he really is, and I don't think they did that either. I think maybe this was set up to, ultimately the only thing that happens out of this miniseries, this event, is what happens with Nick Fury. They kind of had shuffled Nick Fury off to the side because the Marvel Universe, the cinematic universe, had taken over with Sam Jackson as Nick Fury, and they brought in a character called Nick Fury Jr., who was regular Nick Fury's son, who happened to be black. And so that they could basically have their cake and eat it too. They could have old Nick Fury, the original one, and the new movie-inspired version. And that happened in Battle Scars, that you found out that this character was Nick Fury Jr. So he had kind of taken over after that, the Nick Fury role. So now when you're reading a Marvel comic book, after this, when you read Nick Fury, you're talking about the newer version, the Samuel L. Jackson version, rather than the original grizzled old man with the white temples kind of thing. So they had done that and kind of like shuffled the original character off, and it feels like they wanted to do something with that character still. So they aged him up. They said his infinity formula that kept him young was no longer working, and they kind of turned him into this other version of the Watcher for what seems like no reason. So at the end of the storyline, you have Nick Fury kind of being the new Watcher for some reason, and Uatu, the original one, is gone. Why is never really explained. Why Nick Fury wanted to go after this guy, never really explained. Why Midas and the Orb and all these other people were going after him, never really explained. It's just a bunch of stuff that happens, and there's no plot motivation going on except that, like, the Watcher knows things. Like, no shit, that's what he does, that's the Watcher. So it's really, really weird. The other weird thing that spins out of this And the reason why I wanted to read it now and review it here is that this is the event where two big things happen with Thor. And Jason Aaron writing this event felt like this maybe would be a thing to read in the middle of reading his Thor run. As I'm doing here on the channel, like the first thing that happens in issue number 5, there's a big spill of secrets after this battle, and everybody's like, whoa, there's secrets everywhere. You find out that Thor has a sister, and that spins into the 10th Realm miniseries that comes out. There's some revelation with Hulk and Iron Man that Tony Stark, I think, was involved in the Gamma Project at some point. But none of these things ever really stuck around. Like, none of them were earth-shattering. And in fact, the fact that they had to spin them into their own miniseries in order to tell those stories meant that they were not consequential enough to explore in the main miniseries. Like, there's no earth-shattering revelation here for the Marvel Universe that, even really is original, like why doesn't tie back to the title that they chose for the miniseries, that kind of thing. There's no original sin of Nick Fury. There's no original sin of the Marvel Universe. There's no secret to be discovered here that's going to break open everything wide. It's more like, well, everybody maybe has ties, and we're going to make up these sins here thereafter and explore them that way, but not enough to make like the miniseries matter. So ultimately, this feels like a forgotten event, honestly. And the other thing that happens in here that is consequential to Jason Aaron's Thor run is in the last issue, there's a whisper from Nick Fury, who's got all the powers now, to Thor, and it makes Thor drop his hammer and not able to pick it up. So that is where this event happens. Unfortunately, Thor is kind of a side character in the storyline. He's not in it at all. There's so many characters in the storyline that Thor shows up for 5 for this moment, and he shows up for the last battle for that moment. And it's kind of never really returns after that. So I wanted to read it here because this was coming out at the same time as the regular Thor issues were wrapping up, so to speak. In the next volume of the complete collection, like it's kind of half regular Thor and then half Jane Foster Thor. So I wanted to read this now as it was kind of almost in publishing order, I guess, because there's no real like great place to put it. Because you get to the end of that Thor run, issue number 25, and Thor is already unworthy, and they're talking about Jane Foster as opposed to like just reading it before all that. I don't know. It's a strange thing, but ultimately, Original Sin falls flat on its face. Doesn't have a point, doesn't have a purpose, and it doesn't have any consequences. And it really just feels like they were trying to have a big event in order to have Thor drop his hammer for Jason Aaron's Thor run, which feels like it should be in that series and not a mini-series event from Marvel. So I've been kind of rambling. This book really makes me ramble. So if this felt like a disjointed review, try reading Original Sin and talking about it and telling the main plot and the source of the conflict. I can't tell you why Nick Fury wanted to go after the Watcher other than he saw stuff. This review is kind of really disjointed and can't really tell you why it is this disjointed other than this book really does make no sense. So you try reading it and doing an off-the-cuff review after that. And I know you could probably say like, well, don't do an off-the-cuff review, but that's what my channel is, off-the-cuff reviews. Once I finish a story, I talk to you about it off the cuff. That's my style. So let me know down below what you thought of Original Sin. The artwork is great, but I can't tell you anything else about the story that's great. So there you have it. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.